So today we are doing a review of Propolis, and this is going to be exclusively for the solo mode. Now, I will do eventually a review talking about it with additional players, but this one I just recently got a hold of, and I was actually able to do a solo play, which I haven't done in a very long time. When it comes to board games, I usually have a bunch of friends to play with, but this one ended up intriguing me to just kind of try it out for that solo edition. Now, one of the things I do want to mention is when I tried it out, I actually didn't even watch any playthroughs. I didn't even watch anything about it. I just saw it at the store. I like bees and it looked really cute, so I got it and then just kind of tried to set it all up and play in real time after reading the rule book. So the first thing I would say was the setup was pretty simple. I love that in the rule book, it has an image of the full setup, and then every step has a number, and that number is also on the actual images so that you can kind of get an idea. There was a little confusion for one moment of structures and then the starter structures, and just like everything else when it comes to board games, it can take a little bit of a moment to have everything kind of click in place on how it all kind of is, set up. But once we had the setup going, everything else kind of really fell in place. Everything made a lot of sense, for this game as a whole. The pieces are great. I talk about that in the unboxing, as well as the art on the game itself as well, too. It's obviously what drew me to the game first and foremost. I think it just looked really nice, and it was bee-themed. But as far as being able to play, I think it was a little under an hour to do the solo mode. But again, that was with me pausing, double checking some of the rules, going through and obviously recording it. So I think if I wasn't recording that playthrough, it probably would have gone a little bit less than that. And for that first time, I also think that was fine. So nothing too bad on that overall timing. And then set up and clean up all together, I think it's pretty simple. The box is really nice and tiny, so there's not a lot of different pieces to be having to take out in solo mode, because for the opponent, you don't need to be gathering the actual ticker to be going up on the board. Let me see if I can pull the board over here. So this board right over here, you don't have to be moving these pieces for the opponent because they're either just taking up space on the cards in the game, so spaces like this on those cards, or they're just buying up the available properties that are on the screen. I would say my biggest downside when it came to playing, because I did play on easy mode, which was all 16 cards, and the way the game makes it more difficult is that you would play with less cards, which means there are going to be higher chances of them buying structures. And when you fully go through the deck twice, then that also ends the game. So that, will force you to kind of play a little bit differently. But the one thing I would say was that for the solo mode, every time the opponent purchased something, they would always purchase the leftmost property available. And again, they don't need any particular resources for purchasing it. They would just take them, which is totally fine. Makes sense. I just don't know if I loved the idea that it was always the leftmost. Maybe if I just kind of did a house rule, I'd probably shuffle them up together and randomly choose one, because I kept playing strategically in my own head of I would know that that's the only one that would be taken from me. And if I needed to, I would either buy something easy to slide the properties down. But yeah, I'd probably say overall that was okay, but I didn't feel like I was being challenged a lot. Again, it was on easy mode, so I do understand that. And there was only a handful of times where the opponent's bees were on spots on these cards facing this direction, which I should try to remember what this side is called if I can focus. There we go. There was only once or twice where they ended up being on here, and I actually would have preferred to be on there instead. So that did change up my strategy a little bit, which is nice, right? That's kind of the intent. I want to be challenged on what I can do and, what I'm being forced to do as well. I would say I did enjoy the mechanics of the game. Again, everything kind of looks a little funky on the cards at first, right? When you're looking at this right over here, let me show this. So these cards right over here, as an example, it looks a little funky, right? With the A and then the points up here and then the things down here. But as you keep playing, it gets really easy very quickly on what it all means. Obviously, read the rulebook will tell you what it all means. But as far as visually getting to see it and understand it, typically when I play games either with other people or, like I said, this one in solo, I try not to think of the strategy and how to get the most points, if that's the intent. I just try to get the mechanics down right, so then I can actually really focus in the future because I got the mechanics down. Now I can think strategy. But I will say though, towards the end of the game, I did start looking at strategy because I did see how the game was ending up like working and how it played out. So that I was able to kind of actually now say, okay, I understand the mechanics already enough to the point where I can actually start playing with a little bit of strategy. So I'd say like the second half of the game, I was being strategic, partly because in the rule book, I'm about to tip this over, in the rule book, it actually has achievements. And I thought that was really cool. I think that's a really cool thing to have. And you can get achievements either for yourself in solo mode or when playing against other players. And it's like marked where you can have, I think, up to like 4 or 5 different names and then, mark off who got those achievements over time. Because not all of them are going to happen at one gameplay. Obviously, the intent is to be playing this multiple times. And I like that. I thought that was really cool. So I did aim for one of the achievements, which is to get 15 points or more. And I got exactly 15 on my solo play. And so I like that. I thought that was really, really fun. I thought it was interesting. And I'm looking forward to now actually doing more solo plays on this game, partly because of the achievements and to obviously try the higher difficulties, which means less cards that my opponent will have, which means they're going to cycle through some of the big ones like purchasing properties and also sliding through the deck much faster. So I had to plan much quicker ahead of time overall. So for me, I would say it was fun as a solo game. I'm excited to try this as, additional players because this could do up to 4. But for the solo player, I would say the only downside was honestly the just always buying the leftmost property. Just didn't feel as challenging. Whether I want to do house rule or kind of mix it up a little bit more in the future, I can definitely, look at opportunities. But we'll see how it plays out when I do like the medium or even the harder difficulty as well. Now, if it looks like my game here moved a little bit, that's because it definitely fell over and I got a little bit too excited and bumped into the boxes here. So one of the things I did want to mention too is that this is an engine builder and it is also definitely a worker placement game. I actually love those two mechanics. I play Res Arcana a lot and that's an engine builder. It's not a worker placement, but it is that engine builder, which I really, really like. It also has some feelings of Splendor in there as well, because some of your cards will give you permanent, essentially like resources to go ahead and spend as needed. So that's always a really great thing as well. And for the area control, there's, at least for the solo mode, there's not a ton of spaces, but like I mentioned earlier, there's been a few times where the opponent was in spots I wanted to be in. But overall, it felt like there was maybe almost too many options when it came to the mode that I was playing, which was solo and easy. But nonetheless, obviously having a lot of spaces is nice, but I just like the challenges sometimes as well too. One of the things I did want to also mention as well, there's something really fun in the rulebook, and I just want to read it, and I'm going to obviously read it verbatim. I'm not going to remember this. So it says right here, it says, players take on the role of competing medieval bee colonies and take turns developing worker bees to collect pollen, fortifying their positions, and constructing their hives to appease their queen to become the most glorious in the land. I thought that was really cute as well. So I just wanted to kind of add that here inside of my review just because it's just really cool. So would I purchase this for anybody interested in solo games exclusively? There might be some other better games when it comes to solo mode. But again, I'll have to still try it on medium and harder and see if that adds a little bit more complexity that I like to look for when it comes to challenges. But overall, such a cute game. I absolutely love the mechanics of the game. I love the theme of the game, and I'm excited to play this with additional players, which will obviously add to the enhancement of the game itself. Now, as far as rating this game, considering that I played this on easy mode, I would definitely give this closer to a 6 than a 7 or an 8, and I would assume that if I play this on harder difficulties, I would probably get closer to that 7 or 8 score out of 10. And definitely playing with additional players, I can easily see this having a really good score just because the mechanics, the worker placement, the engine building, the challenge of other players taking the cards I want. I love that in a game. I love that in Res Arcana. I love that in Splendor. I love that in games where I see opportunities and other players take things from me. There's that like risk factor of what I go for and what other players are trying to do, and then try to balance that out as well too. I definitely think this one is a great one to go with if you enjoy, beautiful looking games that add, worker placement and engine building. This definitely hits those markers for sure. And I'm excited to honestly play with additional players, as bees are a great theme here for me, and having my friends challenge me in this game is going to be a lot of fun. Now, whether you want to watch my solo playthrough or my unboxing video of Propolis, I'm going to have both videos right over here so you can choose which video to watch next.